Hello, Chris here. Hey, I'm going to give you my review of my May 2nd reading of reading the Bible in a year chronologically. And today my reading included 2 Samuel chapter 24. First it's 1 through 9, then it's correlating scripture of 1 Chronicles chapter 21, 1 through 6. Then we go back to 2 Samuel 24, verses 10 through 17. Then we go to its correlating verses in 1 Chronicles again at chapter 21, 7 through 17. Then back to 2 Samuel 24, verses 18 through 25. Then 1 Chronicles 21, 18, all the way through 22, 1. And then we keep going in Chronicles, 1 Chronicles 22, all the way through 19, verse 19, and there. Yeah, and that's the end of it there. So this is the point where we read about David's sin. And so just right off the bat, I'm going to be spending more time in the census and some things there. But we also hear about, this is David's second sin, about taking the census. And then we get into David building an altar and the threshing floor of Aruna, and then preparations for the temple. And there's some things there that I want to touch on that I don't have any answers for, but what I'm learning from this, or what I see here, is we've got David's second great sin that he did. We've got the first sin being the adultery with Bathsheba, and then killing her husband, and then having her child that dies, and David repents of that. And yesterday we got to see where he's claiming innocence because God said he was forgiven, so he claimed complete innocence for that sin, which is great, awesome. But now we see something a little bit different. First off, right off the bat in chapter 24, 2 Samuel chapter 24, it says, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel. It doesn't say why. What we know about the anger of the Lord burning against Israel is usually because of Israel's sin. It doesn't describe what that is, and before this, it doesn't really show us Israel's sin. I think I tried to look that back real quick. Yesterday's 24. Where's 23? I guess I got to dig back in. I'm going to pause for a second. So I don't see anywhere even going back and looking at chapter 23, 22, we've got David's, basically it's a psalm. Pretty great declaration to God there, but we don't see why there's an anger of the Lord burning against Israel. What we know in the past is they've turned away from God or angered God, and the biggest thing that angers God is not trusting him, turning away from him, worshiping false idols. Those are all things that anger God. So that's what we can assume here. We've got that. So he takes the census there, and Joab goes out and does it. And we've got a little bit of discrepancies between the amounts, which is strange, but which is, I don't understand, and I don't know if there's anything there. There is probably, but I don't have that. What I do see though is the discrepancy between 2 Samuel chapter 24 verse 1 and 1 Chronicles chapter 21 verse 1. And 24, or Samuel says, once again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel and caused David to harm them by taking a census. Okay. So we look at the 1 Chronicles 21 version of that, and it says, Satan rose up against Israel and caused David to take a census of the people of Israel. And so he did. And then the next part of that I want to get into is verse 10. It says, after he'd taken the census, David's conscience began to bother him. And he said to the Lord, I have sinned greatly by taking the census. Please forgive my guilt for doing this foolish thing. So we see that. So first of all, we have We know the anger of the Lord is burning against Israel for some reason. And then we see that the anger of the Lord is addressed by Satan rising up against Israel and causing David to take a census. How was Satan allowed to cause David to take a census? The only thing, though, I guess we know, we need to spend some time thinking on this. So what we know about Satan working against people, we've got a pretty good description in Job about Satan being able to take Job's health. He's been able to take his family. He's been able to destroy his life by taking his stuff. I'm not seeing that here, but I can see where Satan would play off of David's pride. And I can see where David could fall into the trap very easily of saying, look, I have all these people. David is really good about giving God all the credit and turning towards God. But being the position that he's in as this great king, I think pride got into him. And so Satan sees that pride and caused David to take a census by kind of prodding at David, kind of prodding at him, simply prodding at David going, hey, how great of a king are you, David? How great of a king are you? How great of a king are you? If he just kept picking away at that, David could start to think, I'm a great king. I'm a great king. I'm going to take a census. And he did it so much that even Joab, who would try to do the thing that David needed, not what he asked for, had to go do the census. And Joab knew better, but he had to go do it. So he went and took the census, and he got the numbers and said, look how great you are. Yep. But then David sensed the guilt. And that's, I think, another tactic of our enemy Satan. Again, our enemies are not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers of this world. Satan is a principality and power of this world. David's conscious. See what the enemy does is once we partake in a sin that he talked us into, he immediately tells us how stupid we are for partaking in that sin. So he starts out by luring us into it and then beats us down with our failure, because that's what he does. And I think we can see that. That's how I see Satan working, and I see that described here, more or less. That's how I'm reading into it. So then we see the actions of God. We see that God says through Gad, choose between famine throughout your land for 3 months, fleeing from your enemies for 3 years of famine throughout the land, 3 months of fleeing from your enemies, or 3 days of severe plague. And David says, I am desperate. I really have screwed this up. Let us fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is great. Lord, I give this to you. You tell us how you're going to punish us, Lord. Your mercy is greater than mine. Help us. And so God struck the land with the plague. And then we see how he struck the land with an angel of the Lord, and an angel of death, actually, destroying people with the plague, and an angel that David could actually see, that David was afraid of. 70,000 people died because of David's sin. That was the consequence. With you great power comes great responsibility. I know that's a Spider-Man reference, but still. When we get into David building the altar, we have a little bit of discrepancy between 50 pieces of silver for the threshing floor in 2 Samuel and 600 pieces of gold in 1 Chronicles. And again, when you see those discrepancies, it's not a discrepancy, because, again, the word of the Lord is true, accurate, and perfect. But what's it saying about God in this? I don't have an answer for it. I'm sorry, I just don't. But that's there. And we've already found stuff in the past. And I'm waiting for that to be revealed to me someday, and maybe it's already been revealed to you, great. That's awesome. I love it. And if you've got something to share to me for it, great. But I'm okay with not knowing it too, not understanding it, and just trusting that God has something for it. Then we get into preparations for the temple, where David just basically gives all the instructions and gets things around for Solomon, because he says this God is just so important. He puts God first. So anyway, that's my reflection today. Yeah, God bless.